Veeral, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. So glad to be here.
Yeah. So, guys, Veeral is a recognized AI expert. He's the CEO of Reliable Group and the founder of Cubed. He hosts regular speaking engagements. We actually met in YPO, in the Young Presidents Organization. He runs the AI network. His passion is sharing knowledge and expertise to inspire others to embrace the AI potential, to drive innovation in one's own business and communities. And for those of you that know me, I believe that technology doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. There's ways that we can use this that makes our life better. And Veeral got a great deck today to walk us through and present. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Amber. I appreciate it. And I got to say, as everyone was entering, I don't think I've seen a virtual meeting where everyone was like entering with smiles. So yes, it has cool features, but I got to say, like the first thing that struck me is everyone's got smiles on their face as they walk into the hub and wherever they are, because it's just like I don't know, there's a different feeling. And I'm not saying that because I have to. Amber didn't tell me to say that. I'm just saying that because that's that's my experience of the platform. And Amber and I have had meetings in here individually, but it's super cool to see 20 plus people on joining in. So yeah, so today I'm here to talk about AI and really get into moving past the hype. So just really quickly, I'll introduce myself. As Amber said, I'm the CEO of Reliable Group. Um, Interestingly, Reliable Group's been around for 50 years. My father started the business. We've been in emerging tech that entire time. And I say emerging tech with air quotes, because back then in the 70s, it was just a computer. And then, moving onwards, it became a mobile phone or the internet. And I've noticed this trend that people continue to get scared and fearful of these things in the initial innings of this, right? Because they don't know what it is. It's tough to explain, it's tough to digest, and it's all this change that comes. We've seen this before. We've seen this FOMO. We've seen this FUD. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the terms fear, uncertainty, and doubt, sort of hitting everything. And I love this infographic where it's like this was actually from a newspaper when electricity was basically becoming mass adopted, right? And so this image really sort of was this whole media blitz around anti-electricity and what's going to happen to the world. And so my entire point of sharing this is that we've been here before. We've seen innovation. I just saw a post on LinkedIn earlier today where everyone's talking about AI, but the whole video was of farming machinery, right? And it was just farming machinery going through farms, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're going to replace jobs." And my experience of this is quite different. My experience of this is that we, as humans, sort of learn to work with innovation, and we learn to adapt, and we learn to create progress, and we learn to create impact in a much faster way. So ultimately, just to level set things a little bit, we really had AI is not new, right? AI has been around since actually the 50s. Okay. So AI is not a new term. It just became something that we all have been paying attention to in the last year. And the difference is that really what we're talking about is generative AI. So artificial intelligence originally were building programs that used reasoning to check math theorems, play checkers, and that was AI in the 50s. Today, what we're seeing is generative AI. So I just want to get some languaging set, where we're now able to generate content. And we've all seen ChatGPT. Many of us are using Midjourney, Stability, and OpenAI really unlocked and opened the floodgates on this. So what happened is OpenAI made it accessible. And I relate this to the internet. The internet existed before Netscape Navigator, but Netscape Navigator made the internet accessible. That was the only thing that happened. Now, I'm not saying OpenAI and ChatGPT is equivalent to Netscape Navigator. It's just to show an example of how many times we've been here, where the internet existed and then something made it accessible. But here's the thing about AI. As soon as it works, No one calls it AI anymore. AI has been in our lives for a very long time. I personally have been in the space for 6 years. I have friends who I interviewed yesterday. She's been in this space for 20 years. So just to gauge the room a little bit in terms of fluency, uh, raise your hand, I guess, if this is something that you're comfortable with or uncomfortable with in terms of a topic, in terms of AI. Is there a fear factor for you guys in terms of AI? Just raise your hand if there's a fear factor or if you've jumped in. Okay. So perfect. My intent today is try to get past the hype and past the noise you hear because I feel like so much of what we do is really being driven by media. And so what I'm going to take us through is a bit of a journey on how we should approach generative AI. So I'm going to talk about a three-pillar framework here that basically talks about brand, team, and data. And keeping in mind the underpinnings of the philosophy, it's not, and that could be replaced with it's not humans versus AI, it's humans with AI and humans without AI. That's the battle we're fighting today. And when it could be, it's not humans versus AI, it's humans versus innovation. That's never been the paradigm. That's never how we've operated. And so today I want to break this down into three things that we all can do to really frame our mindset around brand, the team that we build, and how we can leverage the data um, to move forward in this sort of uncomfortable world. So let's talk about brand first. It is my opinion that the one thing that's going to matter now more than ever is the brand that we have and the brand value we create to our consumers and users. What we're seeing is that generative AI makes low performers okay and good performers great. And I'm going to give a couple of case studies and examples in how we do this. And that's a slide which is not, it's a little small. So maybe when if you guys want to dig in and zoom in later, there's a zoom function, by the way. You guys can zoom in and read the fine print on some of these research reports that are out there. This is science. This is not my opinion. This is not sort of, we've seen an improvement in sort of brand reactions and brand value go up when we are there. Now, ultimately, the AI has been in every single product, right? It's in SaaS computing, it's in home computers, it's in medicine, it's in law. There's every single industry is going to be affected by AI. And what we're seeing on the forefront of this is that AI tools are becoming ubiquitous and they're becoming actually level playing ground for everyone. So there's two types of companies, those that are generating the AI products and then those that are using it. You can live on either side. But the reality is that I would assume most of us in the room are users of AI. We happen to be builders, that's a separate conversation. So if everyone has access to the same tools and everyone has access to the same AI equipment, then the differentiator eventually and the moat that we create is around the brand and the brand experience. So to set another way, it's how we choose to utilize the AI tools that we all have available to us. It's not like these AI tools are being hidden away in a secret area that are inaccessible to us and only available to the few. It's a matter of staying at the forefront of that and creating a differentiation of your brand. This is why customers and consumers will continue to come back to you, because at the end of the day, it's about creating a better brand experience. And arguably, nobody cares if your brand is using AI, is my experience with this. In fact, I'd argue that customers get disappointed when you're not using AI to drive their experiences. It's become so part of the table stakes of how brands and customers are expecting us to deliver up and serve up their experiences that what we're finding, and I assume this is true for many of you in the room, right? Let's talk about Google for a second, right? We all get frustrated when the Google search comes back bad. And I'm going back to search because search has also been very much driven by AI, even though it didn't have it had more machine learning behind it than it had a generative AI. But we all get pretty annoyed when there's not a good search experience. That is AI, right? And so at the end of the day, what we're experiencing is this now new expectation from our consumers and our brand and our customers to really drive an AI based experience. And the reality is they don't care. What they care about is having a good experience with you and your brand. And brand, if we take all the tools that are available, that becomes the only moat that you have in this competitive environment. So I think I want to highlight two case studies here. One is, I don't know, so just by a raise of hands, have any of you seen this clip by this Wes Anderson Star Wars remake? All right, we only have Amber that's seen it. So we could post the link up through here as well. But this is an amazing sort of experience that many of you should get familiar with pretty quickly. So Content Refuge is an agency, and they use the same tools that are available to everyone in the world, right? They did not do anything different. They didn't invent an AI tool. They took images from Midjourney. They used Stability AI, two tools that I have links to the end. And they took classic movie favorites and made trailers with the Wes Anderson spin on it. The amount of media that this got was absolutely insane. They created brand values. Now, they could have said, we make videos with AI. That would have been boring. That's what I call boring telling, not storytelling, right? And really, at the end of the day, what they did is they harnessed the power of AI to create a really successful agency. Um, and, and really put it out there by creating these trailers that had a classic movies with a Wes Anderson spin on it. And they've made a bunch of these with the Lord of the Rings now, and it's become their sizzle, so to speak. But here's another interesting example. If we go to a much more well-known brand, Apple. So here's the amazing thing. We don't need to talk about AI. Apple in their, not the one that's today, by the way, in their last sort of announcement in their developer conference, they did not use the words AI once in their entire keynote or any session. It was almost like a banned word. But that doesn't mean they're not using AI. So it was one of the most fascinating things, because if you look at all of the SEC reports and the 10K reports, the use of the word AI has basically become like technology. It's like almost like silly how much people are saying we're investing in AI, we're investing in technology. And it was so beautiful to see a company like Apple, which is, there's no doubt or question that they are using AI in every aspect of their development and their product development. They're even making AI chips. They didn't use the word AI once in their entire developer conference, which I think speaks to how they think about AI. We all have, Apple being the North Star of many brands and brand aspirations. They didn't even have to use the words AI. They're just delivering the experiences that they know their customers need, and customers don't care if you're using AI. So I thought this was good to really highlight sort of the brand experiences that people are expecting to have with AI, whether you use the word AI or not. It's about delivering a better customer experience to your users. And so I'm going to move on now. If there's any questions, I'd love to, and we can actually we'll do Q&A at the end. But the next pillar I want to move on to is evaluating teams. Now, the way that we think about teams today may be a little bit different. I don't know if any of you can zoom in on this, but I think it's important if you do, because what you'll see here is a whole different way to think about team structures. So for those of you that can, just go ahead and zoom in. There's a gentleman named Matt from FutureWorks who did a really interesting experiment. And I want to give you guys this thought experiment. He said, and he has a partner, and he said he went to his business partner and asked if he could take a 30-day leave of absence from their business. And he said, I want to make AI my business partner. And so what he did is he thought about, in this new context of AI, how am I going to use AI and be a partner, not fight it, not work against it, but listen to it. And his poster on Twitter, for anyone that wants, you could literally post, you could see every prompt he put into ChatGPT, and all he did was follow ChatGPT's instructions. You would not believe he created a business from scratch, from zero, on day zero, to $1 million pipeline in 30 days. It was the results were astounding. And the way he eventually, after he went through his first 30-day experiment, he reframed his business to partner with AI at every level of the organization. So the way he drives his org chart now, and I know this is very emerging, and I know this is very next level way of thinking, and he runs a smaller firm, but the concepts of how we can think about AI and how we can partner with AI and embed them into our teams shouldn't be lost or forgotten. At the end of the day, he makes sure that each one of his team members has a white box and a green box right next to it. And he wants them to think about how they're going to use AI as a partner. And as a result, the last announcement he made is one of the heads of Google's design team. I think he was one of the chief design officers at Google, basically just wound up joining because he used it for his recruiting as well. And so I present this as sort of a really amazing thought experiment. And really think about when you're evaluating your team, what tasks do you want them to be doing, and what tasks are tiring them, and what tasks are empowering them? What we've learned from Matt's experiment is, you know, AI as a partner could be a really interesting thing. And I think if we go to the task level, what we'll really find is, and this is a great, again, you need to sort of zoom in. So I wanted to get really practical. And Amber asked me to make sure people don't think that this is scary, right? And so this is just like a literal like workflow chart, right, over a project that you could take. And it now talks about how to integrate AI into humans and hybrid and what's doing what in what area. And so you'll see here that the human aspect goes back to brand and brand value is where we need to make the presentations and we need to put our secret sauce to it. But a lot of the onboarding, the project approach, the messaging, even how we're going to create a narrative can be done in a hybrid approach. And the AI individually can do very little, by the way. It needs to work with us to be. And will this change? And are we talking about Terminator, level stuff in the future? I don't know. But I do know that for now, humans and AI need to work together to sort of create these powerful teams. And I recently interviewed Ethan Mollick from Wharton, and what he did with all of his students is he asked them to do one impossible thing. It was it. He said, by the end of this semester, I want you to do one impossible thing, something you thought was absolutely impossible. And that's how he encouraged his teams to adopt, and his students, to adopt AI, because he gave them the freedom to experiment and fail and try. And so there's just so many lessons we can take away, how it's building teams, enabling them with AI, as opposed to fighting it. Now, the last component of AI really depends on data. The statement that we hear all the time for those of you that are from the industry is that AI is your friend. Data is the oil to make that machine work. So, Anna, if we can go to the next slides really quickly, I know I'm running out of time. And I'm not going to go too deep into this. There's an entire playbook that we at Reliable have created. This gets a little bit more technical, and I don't want to bore you guys with it. But at the end of the day, what we really want to do, I want you to focus on this second sort of pillar here, which is prioritizing your opportunities. So if we go to the next slide, this will explain it a little bit more. So I want you to think about AI in terms of an innovation funnel. There's so many use cases. People have a ton of ideas, and then they get stuck in this ideation mode, okay? So once what you would actually, this concept mode, what we need to do as leaders is move it from concept to ideation. And this innovation funnel sort of lays out a best practices of how we've experienced how companies as large as the largest private equity companies in the world to very, very tiny, scrappy startups are experiencing where they're going to use AI. They're going to take the entire segment of what they think is possible. They're going to workshop those ideas. And there's two things that have to happen after those workshops. You can either go ahead and build a POC, or you can start doing more further discovery and then build an MVP. There's no wrong or right in this, but the whole point is to start exercising the muscle as opposed to getting stuck in over evaluation. The movement of AI is sort of happening and really prevalent in every customer's expectations and experiences. And so I wanted to provide some really practical ways that to move you past concept all the way to production. And lastly, and I'm going very quickly past all these slides, and I can probably spend an hour just on that alone, on that slide alone. But in the interest of time, I really, again, this is just if you take an agile implementation approach to how we think about this, really what you're looking is, in our experience, is that typically within less than 6 months, you're going to have something meaningful that you can experiment with. Now, the one challenge you have, and everyone has, is that the pace of innovation is so quick that you don't really know. I mean, even today, as Amber said, this entire landscape, if I'm not mistaken, I can't be 100% sure, was produced by Midjourney, would be my guess, right? And so, next year there may be something that does videos quickly. Amber and I were speaking about a video tool. And so now we have this ability to turn blogs into videos very, very quickly. So this implementation approach is, if you want to build an AI tool that's living on your data, that's specific to your brand and your brand experience, it'll happen so long as it's like going to the gym. First thing you got to do is put your shoes on. Forget about anything else. But you got to get there to the point where you put your shoes on and do something. It's not about theorizing over whether the gym is healthy or not. It's not about what noise is out there. We all know that this is happening. We just got to put our shoes on, lace them up, and take the first steps, depending on where you live, to the gym or to your car, right? That's it. Don't overthink it. But at the end of the day, combining your data, which is private to you, with your brand and your team structure can probably deliver some amazing customer experiences that you probably didn't even think were possible. And so I'm going to end there. There's a couple of tools at the end of this slide. Anna, if you just want to share them. They're sort of at the end of this slide. I'm going to have to skip through this because I'm way over time here.
Well, and we do have this deck as well. I mean, that's the wonderful thing of like the resources that you talked about. We actually have those in the room, Veeral and Future Partnerships. And so I love the Anderson Cooper one or the Anderson one you mentioned. So we're going to add that video in there as well, so that people can actually have the tips and tricks that you're talking about.
Amazing. And I'm available for anyone to talk about this. My experience with this has been longstanding. I happen to be able to help Amber and her community out by sharing some of this today. But, we've been building AI products for a really long time. It's gotten really fun lately, is the best way for me to describe it. Because the ideation and the innovation that's coming out is outstanding. So thank you all.
I love that. And if anyone has any questions or would like to ask a question along these, if you'll just raise your hand. And while I wait for those, Veeral, thank you so much. As we talk about this, I think what's fascinating to me is one of the conversations we've had as well around, like you mentioned, Lumen, where we're actually writing a script now, guys. You can write a script and take, let's say this entire thing is recorded as an hour video or 35 minutes, and give it, this AI will pull out the videos and create a sizzle for you. And so it's the same as the rooms that you're seeing. We'll tell this prompts of like what we would like to see, but you still have to have an artistic eye or understand creativity. So it's one of the biggest things I'm always talking about is I think this actually gives a much louder voice for creatives and for people that can see it in your head, but a lot of times it's like a game of telephone, right? Like we'll talk to 5 people to have one thing developed and created, and it goes through all of those different human filters. And instead, like with Midjourney and Leonardo AI, Photo Leap, these are all different apps that are actually in the Future Partnership room that you can see. And these are different technologies that we've been able to use to create something in a much simpler, quicker way. And so I think that's what's really cool with what you're talking about, of like understanding how to build it out. So is there any questions or anybody have anything they'd like to ask? No? All right. Well, let me just really quick before we can break into different groups, just what you're seeing right now and being able to have choice into going into the different rooms is really truly the distinction over Zoom. We've built a seamless integration. So as you saw, we were pulling in PowerPoint and streaming it live. As you were in the AA room, you could watch a video straight from YouTube, get your impressions back on YouTube. It is browser based for the convenience. And great, I see. We do have advanced security features so that it's not able to be hacked in that area because nothing is downloaded onto your computer. And we have smart analytics as well. So knowing what people click on, where they move around. So this is really idea for the corporate teams, collaboration that are experiencing that Zoom fatigue, educational trainings like what we're talking about here. Half the things of like when Veeral was talking about the charts and stuff, I want to go back and visit that. Well, being able to have that where it's not yet another email that we have to pull from. So definitely would love that if you'll please think of a way that we can spread the word and so the AA can really expand and revolutionize the virtual meetings because boy, doesn't it need to change. Cindy, I believe you had a question, so I don't want to, would love to hear.
Yes, thanks. I was going to ask Veeral. So, like right at the start of the presentation, I like the way you kind of oriented us to how long AI has been around in all of our lives, and then sort of defining, if you will, generative AI, meaning that we now have output from that. You also said open AI. So, I mean, I'm one who is very curious about all of this. I'm certainly, I don't have my arms around what all of this means. So, it kind of define AI then, if or is it the same as generative AI?
No, so OpenAI is a company that was recently made. They're the creators of ChatGPT. So
Okay,
OpenAI is a company founded and initially funded
I
by
see.
Elon
I see. I
Musk.
see. Okay, I thought you
Is
were using it as like not a
there
proper
is
noun,
no
but
no
a
there is
common noun.
there is something called open sourced AI tools, not to confuse
Okay.
you more, but OpenAI has a product called ChatGPT.
Yep,
ChatGPT
I'm familiar with it.
is
Yep.
full of nobody knows how the algorithms work and how the AIs work. It's there's a lot of debate about whether it's a black box. In contrast to that, there's other tools. There's that's so ChatGPT is considered an LLM, a large language model. Um, if you go out and you really want to get deeply technical, there's like 50 what are called open sourced LLMs, where you can go out and basically take the same concepts and use it in a closed environment by yourself with your own data. And they're freely available on a platform called Hugging Face. But
Okay. Is all of
that requires some technical folks from your team, I would imagine, to get all that working.
got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Are these resources in one of the presentations? Amber, is that what you were saying?
Yes, they sure are. So if you'll see here on the left in our directory, if anybody have more
Hmm.
questions on what they saw in AA in that world, this world will always be open, so you can come back as well. You can bookmark. We're going to host another session on AI with Sol. She was the CIO of Estee Lauder, and she's going to be speaking on the 26th. So we have a calendar invite that you can add that to your calendar, and all of that is here in the future of partnerships. So as we close up today, if you want to have one-on-one conversations, if you want to ask Veeral anything more like in a close conversation, like you would normally after a stage, right? Normally after a live event, you'd walk over to stage and you'd want to ask them something. You can actually do that if you'll jump into the future of partnerships. And we'll have the assets there, Cindy, but we also, if Veeral will step in there for a minute or two, he can answer any questions or have I'll tell you a little bit more, and I'll be in there as well, and we'll have proximity audio on. So you can meet some of the groups here or have any questions. Thank you all so much. I'll see you over there if you want to join. Have a great day.
Scott's got placed right in the middle so he can hear everything.
I'm wondering, have you worked with companies who are leveraging a lot of AI tools for social media?
We have. We've worked with quite a bit of, I mean, we've done it more from the predictive side,
Yeah,
predicting customer behavior using AI, using, purchase history. We've worked with some pretty large brands, and including restaurants. One of the coolest things we did, I won't mention their name, but is a steakhouse where we were able to basically look at all their past gift receipts and checks and sort of deliver up this really cool experience where we were able to actually know who the customer was based on the reservation and use and predict obviously when they would be able to make reservations, but then when they were there, it's not AI, it's AI-ish. Deliver the drink of their choice based on their past order history of everything they've ordered in the past
oh, interesting.
before they ordered it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm on the content creation side, but that makes me think about event activations and possibly leveraging some of your customer insights if they're visiting your booth or whatnot. Um, but
There's
it's very interesting.
From a booth visiting perspective, you need to sort of look at some of the video AI tooling that's available, um, and understand who's been at your booth, and you'd need to capture
Right.
that video in case they don't sort of fully engage or click in somehow, like through some call to action. There are ways to do it, but depending on the brand, it could be pretty interesting. The other thing that actually is super interesting is developing user personas. We do this internally at our own firm. Is before anybody gets on a call, we actually put in their entire profile, their LinkedIn profile. We capture all their social media posts, and we are able to basically get a persona of what their pain points are before we get on calls. And then we've developed an ABM, an account-based marketing program that's specifically tailored to them and all we need is a minimum of 500 words of content
Interesting.
produced by them.
Wow, that's pretty amazing, especially as we as digital is moving away from being able to for to target audiences specifically with the removal of cookies and all the other really fun
Yeah.
stuff. So that's
For us,
interesting.
given that we're B2B, right, it works. Like
Yeah,
we're not necessarily a brand that goes out and like, goes to consumers. That's the strategy we've deployed. So every single person that we're engaging with, and it's interesting because we're doing it just from a sales operations perspective. Each organization that we are looking to work with, we're not just targeting one person. There may be 3 to 5 people in that
yeah,
organization, each with individual messaging.
yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, and that's all
Um,
based off of their LinkedIn. I mean, we love LinkedIn because it gives us all this breadth of data that says, we got to know you a little bit better.
Very cool. I'm also interested in just AI tools and capabilities for just creating content in general, or maybe it's like repurposing content. I love the idea of turning a blog into a video, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Um, so
there's
definitely,
yeah, I would say Amber, I think, has recommended Lumen, Lumen 5. I'm assuming you're familiar with Dolly Midjourney
yeah,
Stability.
yeah.
Those are all pretty table stakes. Um, there's Da Vinci. There's a few others that are still sort of cutting edge. What you're gonna see, I don't know if you work with Hollywood and media at all, but even if you're not, if you're producing content, if you're working with brands that are multilingual, and you're doing a global rollout, there's a
Yeah.
company called Flawless.
Say it
Um,
again.
Flawless. So Flawless can take any video content that you have and automatically change the lip movements and the language to a
Ugh,
local language. So one cut of a video content can now be distributed globally and localized to their language.
that that is mind blowing. Localization is probably one of I do work for a global company, and localization of global content is a big pain point. So that one's
So yeah, you should check they do it, I think, across 6 or 7. Interestingly, they got their start in Hollywood. So 30% of post-production costs have been reduced as a result of this. And now what they're doing is they're actually producing the same movie with the G-rated version all the way to an R-rated version.
Wow.
And so it's using AI to do all the post-production work. And then they're also going broader, right? To say, okay, well, we need this in Mandarin, we need this in Icelandic, and whatever languages they need, and it automatically edits the videos to give it the lip movement because it doesn't have that dubbing issue. It looks very natural.
And they're using and it's voices, so they'd be using like the right dialect. Do you know? I can dig in.
From my experience, I only know 3 languages. Like they were good.
Okay.
So yes, it was good. It was powerful. It was great. Flawless.ai is the company you want to check out for that. And it's not just using audio, by the way. The fascinating is they're editing the video on the fly.
Yeah.
So the lip movements match the audio.
Yeah, that again, one of our biggest pain points and one of our biggest complaints from our regions or local areas is the lip movement for global content and global creative. So that one just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, check out Flawless for sure. And if you need an introduction there, I know the folks over there as well.
Amazing.
Any other questions?
I mean, I can keep going, but I feel like I've dominated this conversation. So,
So
Amber
Amber and I saw yesterday a 4-minute video that was the script was written by chat based upon the circumstances that the summit that we were at, and the the it was laid out what they wanted the script to be, and this company actually produced based upon that script. Let AI do a video based upon the script, and it was insane. I mean, it was amazing the content that they were able to pull from. I don't know if it's expired content on the internet that is now available to anyone to use, but just based upon the script, grabbing this content, creating this 4-minute video, which was so well done, was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. Here's a fun fact. McGraw-Hill stopped accepting submissions for books.
Really?
They had to stop. They went from like, it was absolutely, the content that was coming out was all being AI generated, and they were getting like 500 submissions a day. So they paused it. I don't know if they restarted it, to be candid. I'm going back. I'm dating myself 3 months, which in our world is like a lifetime. But they had to stop taking book submissions because all the content that was coming out was AI generated. There's no way that many authors were created overnight. And so you'll see that phenomenon happen. And it's going to be both good and bad, by the way. I do feel like there's going to be a world where indie movie producers will be able to create content and movies that are specific to a genre that didn't have the budget or the tooling before. So I think that there's going to be this hyper local creation of interest where things that were once very expensive to be done now can be done at a very localized level and very niche level. And I think there's going to be a brand opportunity there as well, and a consumer opportunity there as well if you can sort of tap into that. And we could just create content, video, and even the scripts themselves. I mean, you're talking about grabbing old scripts. ChatGPT will just create you a script now. So you could ChatGPT a script, go to Lumen 5, create the video, and create the artwork for Midjourney, and it's all very affordable. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of dollars.
Hillel, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm wondering what you think about how AI can kind of integrate with meeting platforms such as this one, actually. So I'm thinking especially about all the tools we're seeing now for like meeting summaries and like real-time transcription and that kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts on? It seems like that's becoming much more a bigger part of how corporate teams and companies are using AI. How do you think that AI is going to be affecting kind of like how we do meetings.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing Otter and Red, and now Zoom just came out with their own summary tool. And so you're seeing that. I think that, and again, Amber's really not paying me to do this. I think this is far more interesting because you could start seeing what matters, right? So Zoom is all these Brady Bunch boxes. And so the best you could do is really the summary. The second best thing you could do is, and I don't know if it's ever going to be permitted from a policy perspective, is facial recognition to reactions. Because what I want is actionable data. I always think about how to make money, how to save money, how to grow, all those things. And so in this, you're already seeing unstructured data. I mean, and not to call it out, but like I sat on this sofa, now everyone's around me, and then somebody went off to the side, which means they're not interested. If you can start pairing that visualization data of where people are on a screen relative and what conversations they're in, and then bringing that back and synthesizing that with other data that you can augment onto it, you now have very powerful tooling to approach customers and customer behavior. Zoom is very stagnant. So the best you could do is summaries and facial recognition to assess responses, which I believe there's going to be policy issues with. There was an AI framework that just got released 5 days ago from the U.S. government. I assume most of us are in the States. I'm carefully watching how policy is going to inform innovation here. And so when we start recording facial expressions with or without consent, I think that's going to be how meetings are going to change. I don't know that you could hide from that. And we're already seeing facial recognition and response recognition in other areas. So, just to give you an example, and this is a proud father moment. My son, who is now 18, but when he was 16, invented an AI algorithm that would detect if drivers are drowsy, drunk, distracted, rage, or on their phones. And so you're going to see AI now go into vehicles, right? And that's actually coming into law in a number of states by 2035, where you have to be deemed fit to drive a vehicle in order to drive. Forget about DUI tests. And so there's just all this facial recognition. And Amber, maybe if you can get Rana to come on, she talks about how the emotional response to AI and how AI and emotion is going to be. There's a company called Affectiva, which all they focus on is how the intersection of human emotion and AI.
Yeah, that was what was interesting, real yesterday on the at the conference Steve and I were at. They said the biggest thing, Elon or someone had mentioned that the thing that he fears the most is if the AI feels. And it was funny on the little video it made. And it was all an AI video, AI script, everything about the summit, and it even talked about like, but I cannot feel, and it like had a whole story around that. But then it's a comfort level. Like, remember when Zoom announced that they were tracking everything on your face now for AI? How many people freaked out? Right?
Sure.
It's such a private.
It's a thing. It's our private moments, but I think that we live in a digital world. To answer your question, a lot like it's going to become table stakes. I mean, I can tell you for sure at my firm, we use Red AI or in every meeting, and nobody's taking summary notes, and we all have our action items, and like it's all done, and we just get it. It's delivered proactively to us. Like there's nobody taking minutes and action items anymore. We're just meeting and clicking end meeting and being done.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, for real. Appreciate all of this.
My pleasure.
Thank you, guys. If anybody else has any questions or anything, do let me know. And I appreciate you guys coming today.